Today's episode is brought to you by 9centprinting.com. With over 100 five-star reviews, 9centprinting.com is ready to meet all your printing needs. Are you a church plant or small church with no copy machine? No problem. 9cent Printing has you covered. If you need bulletins, flyers, books, cards, offering envelopes, posters, they do it all. I know the Christian owners of this business personally, and I'm not just a fan, I'm also a customer. Fast, nationwide shipping, affordable, professional, wow printing at wow prices. Check them out at 9centprinting.com. Well, welcome to the Small Town Pastor Podcast. This podcast is a ministry of Small Town Network. We exist to make disciples, train pastors, and plant churches in smaller communities. My name is Eric Nielsen. I'm joined today by Tony Colom, our co-host. And today we're joined by a new friend, James Floyd. James, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, glad to be here.
Yeah, good to have you on, man. So just for reference, the way I know you, kind of two connections. You planted a church in Washington. What city were you in?
Gig Harbor.
Gig Harbor. I don't know that I remembered it was Gig Harbor. That's like one of the most beautiful places on earth, right?
Yeah.
And you planted with the same network that helped me start our church here in Idaho, which was the CEA and now is called Evergreen Network. So shout out to Evergreen Network. And then somehow along the way, someone mentioned to me that your wife, Christy, is an accountant. And I was just saying before we began, as a pastor, I've never had an accountant. We always had a church treasurer. And for those listening, if you get nothing else out of this podcast, a accountant is much better than a church treasurer. They just do what you want them to do. They don't ask questions. They don't act like the gatekeeper of the church checkbook. They don't argue with you. They don't harass your staff about spending money. They just do what you pay them to do, and they do it on time, and they do it professionally, and it's so good. So Christy is like a major blessing. She runs the accounting for our network, for my congregation, and then all of our church plants use Christy. So she's probably not available. Someone's going to be like, what's Christy's number? I'm like, sorry, find your own.
She's booked up right now.
Yeah. I know I always hate to ask her to do anything more because I'm like, I know she's right at the threshold. So, hey, before we kind of get into your story, why don't you just tell us real quickly, your name, if you want to tell us how many kids and all that, how long you've been married, what town you live in, and then we'll kind of get into like your pathway to faith in Christ, and then also into ministry.
Okay. So yeah, my name is James Floyd, and I was born in Anaheim, California, which is a long ways from where I live now, and in just outside of Greenville, Michigan.
Okay.
And I'm married to Christy Floyd. She's an accountant. She is definitely gifted in bringing order out of chaos. I think that's how God wired her up. And definitely she's been a blessing to me in so many ways, but she definitely helps bring some order out of my chaos. That's for sure. We have two kids. We have a son named Jameson. We call him JJ. He is 16, and a daughter named Jovi, and she is 13. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And we talked about kind of before, just as the primer, we like people to tell us, like, how did you become a disciple of Jesus? What was the pathway for you? Like, did you grow up in the church? Did you come to faith later in life? If you want to just tell us that.
Yes, start from the beginning.
Oh boy, you don't know what you just asked for. So I was not raised in a Christian home. Okay. My mom was raised as a Mormon, but walked away from Mormonism when she turned 18. She started asking questions. They couldn't answer the questions. And so she walked away. My dad was raised Catholic, but not really practicing. And so every once in a while when I was little, they would take us to a Lutheran church because that's where my older sister and I went to preschool.
Okay, nice.
So we had a little bit of understanding of Jesus. When I was in second grade, I asked my mom for permission to go to religious release, which is like chapel on wheels outside of the elementary school. They would pull up a Protestant one and a Catholic one and
No
park them out
way.
there.
What?
And
Never heard of
I just
that.
wanted to get out of class.
Yeah,
And
sure.
so, and I heard they had snacks. So
Like
I
a
got
food
to
truck for
sign.
Jesus.
What's that?
Like a food truck for Jesus.
Exactly. Yeah.
Minus the food.
Yeah. And so I was signing up and I asked her, are we Catholic or are we protesters? And she's like, it's Protestant and we're not Catholic. So, so, um, so I went to this chapel for a while. I'd get out of class just after lunchtime on Wednesdays, and I would learn basically Sunday school lessons. So I learned more about Jesus, but I didn't accept him then. Um, when I was 8, my mom passed away
Oh, wow.
from cancer. My dad remarried really, really fast. And then when I was 11, my dad passed away. So
Oh,
then
no.
I began kind of moving around. I'm not going to cover all the places I lived, but
Sure.
I bounced around. I lived with different family members, and I came with a Social Security check. And so oftentimes that was the motivation to bring me into their home was they got
Wow.
the check. And
Wow.
so fast forward to high school, and I was living with an aunt and uncle, and um, I was invited to go to church. And I made up every excuse in the world with these two guys from school that kept inviting me to go to a church with them, and eventually I went, and it was Eastside Christian Church. They're now in Anaheim, but they used to be in Fullerton.
Okay.
And so I started to attend this church, and I discovered there was something there that I was missing. There seemed to be adults there that cared about me, and I wanted to know what the angle was. So I kept going back, and there were also really cute girls there. So I was,
Hey,
kept going back for that too.
absolutely.
And I really leaned in and asked a lot of questions. And I was so rough around the edges, and was so great. I'm so grateful for um, the adult leaders in that youth ministry, and my friends' parents who just kind of loved me just as I was, but at the same time challenged me to grow, and really modeled what healthy families look like.
Hmm.
And I'd been going to church for about 6 months when I went forward on a Wednesday night. It was May 6th of 1992.
Wow.
And um, uh, the the high school pastor, he was an intern. His name's Jason French. He's now with Christ in Youth.
Oh, we know Jason French.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jason.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I walked forward, and he was gathering his notes, and he turned around, was a little startled because he didn't invite me up on stage, but I was up on stage, and I say, "Hey Jay, I want to get baptized tonight." And he's like, "I don't have keys to get into like the main
I don't
building."
have the keys.
And I said, "It's Southern California. I could point to 4 people with swimming pools."
Yeah, yeah.
So we went over to my friend Jeff's house, who was one of the guys who invited me to church, and we borrowed Jeff's shorts, which Jeff was quite a bit smaller than both Jason and I. And so in borrowed shorts in a swimming pool in my friend's backyard, I was baptized into Christ. So
Wow. So you were like a junior in high school?
I was a sophomore. So
Sophomore. So
yeah,
are
so
you like,
I
okay.
what's that?
Are you like 49, 50?
Yeah, I'm 49. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man,
So
I just turned 51, so you got good company with old guys. Okay.
yeah.
Carry on.
So yeah, so it was kind of from then on I started to learn and grow. It was at a Christ and Youth conference in Point Loma,
Mhm.
so near San Diego in California,
Okay.
that between my junior and senior year, I felt God first tell me he wants me to serve him with my life. And I
Mm.
didn't know what that looked like. Um, so I went home and I shared that with my family, my aunt and uncle, and the 3 adult cousins that were living at home. They were
Right.
real winners. But anyway, they completely tore me up. told me all the reasons why shouldn't be in ministry and I'm not
Wow.
qualified. They didn't
Wow.
go to church. They didn't know Jesus, but they seemed to be an expert on who should be in ministry. And eventually they pulled the dead mom card and said, "Hey, your mom wanted to be a teacher, and if you loved your mom, you would be a teacher." Um,
Oh, bro.
and yeah, yeah, it was brutal. It was brutal. It was a 5 hour conversation. Like, yeah, it was
5 hours.
yeah, it
Like a
was
little
really rough.
inquisition almost.
Yes, yeah, yeah. There was a lot of weird, yeah, like psychological
Yeah.
stuff going on in that family. So anyway, I began to distance myself from God at that point, and this call to ministry. And eventually, so graduated high school, started college, and and was not taking
Where'd
it
you go to
serious.
college?
What's that?
Where'd you go to college at?
So at that point, since I was running away from
Mm.
call to ministry, I just went to Fullerton College. So I was at a community college.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
I just started there. I wasn't taking classes serious. And the beginning of my second semester, I dropped out and I joined the army. And
Oh, okay.
I just split. Like I just felt like I needed to get away from my family. I needed to get away from everything. And I kept telling my friends, I just need to get to a spot where it's me and God and we can work this out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And and they kept saying, you don't you don't need to do that. Like there's people here. You can, I had friends' parents that were like, you can move in with us. I had a small scholarship to Hope International
Mhm.
university from a preaching contest thing that I did at some youth rally.
Yeah, that's great.
And yeah, and so, but I was like, no, I just need to leave. And it was about a year into the army where, yeah, I just had this moment of clarity in my barracks room. And it was like, Jesus didn't die on the cross for you to live this way. And
Mhm.
so I went and knelt down on the ground and began praying and asking God to, um, to take me back if He would, and it felt like my prayers were bouncing off the drop down ceiling in my barracks room. But I got this sense of go back to where you started. And the first book of the Bible that I ever read was the Gospel of John. So I
Oh.
found my Bible and I began to read until I was tired and set it down. Woke up in the morning and I got this sense like you need to go look for this church. So one thing that I didn't tell you is that a guy who was the college pastor at Eastside had a few months earlier moved up to Washington, where I was living. I was stationed at Fort Lewis,
Okay.
and he became the pastor of Parkland Christian Church. And one of my friends, one of my best friends, a guy named Dan, his mom, I call mom, she had been bugging me every time I would call home and talk with my friends and talk to her, and she would say, "You need to go find Rogers Church," and so I got up that Saturday morning and went down to my friend Chuck's door in the barracks and knocked on his door, and I was like, "Hey, Chuck, you want to come with me? I'm going to go look for this church." And he said, "What are you going to do to it?" Um, I said, "Well, I'm going to go tomorrow. But I just want to find it so I'm not stressed out on Sunday morning." And he's like, "All right, I have no idea what's going on with you, but I'll go with you." And so we got in my car and started to drive. And so we left Fort Lewis and we were going up the five, and we changed over into onto the 512, and there's a spot where you have to like merge over or you are forced to get off at that first exit.
Mhm.
And I was so frustrated because there was a car next to me, and when I sped up, it sped up. When I slowed down, it slowed down. It forced me to get off and I'm saying all sorts of things that I'm not going to say right now. It forced me to get off at this exit that I wasn't going to get off at. I didn't know where where the church was. I just knew it was over by Pacific Lutheran University someplace.
Mhm.
So I got off onto Steel Street, and Steel turns into Spanaway Loop, and I was going around the corner, and my friend Chuck's like, "Aren't you going to turn around?" And I was super impatient back then. I'm so much better now, but I was I if I had a green light, I was going to go through it in instead of stopping for a red arrow. So I was like, "I'll find a spot to turn around." And right when I said I was going to turn, we came around this corner, and there was the church. And so I pulled in, got out, walked up, and they don't have it now, but they used to have the service times like etched on the
Oh,
window.
sure. Yeah.
So I got up and I got out of my car. I looked uh, to see what time church was, and then got in the car and drove away. So this is 97, so internet's there's not like tons of
Nope.
stuff out there. I mean, people are probably going, why didn't you just like look online?
Yeah,
Because
Google it. Yeah.
you
We
didn't
couldn't
really
back
do
then.
any of those things. So
Dial internet at best.
yeah,
And no churches had websites. Yeah.
no,
Nope.
they didn't. Yeah. And so I went the next day, and as I was sitting there, my friend Chuck went with me because he was like, I don't know what's going on with you, but we're like brothers, so whatever you're going through, I want to be there with you. And so I'm sitting there in the church service, and Roger's up there preaching, and all of a sudden he makes eye contact with me.
Hmm.
And he like does a double take, and he gives me a little point, and he keeps preaching. And I was like, oh man.
It's like,
Chuck's
see
like,
you
what?
after.
I was like, he saw me. And
I've been
I
made.
needed
Yeah.
I need to go say hi to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. And so I walked up, and he was like, oh, James Floyd. He said, I heard you were coming.
Hmm.
I was like, how did you hear I was gonna come to your church? He goes, well, Jenny Michael, she told me when we were moving up here, like, look for James. He's gonna show
Okay.
up.
Okay.
He goes, so I've been looking for you to show up.
Oh, wow.
So it was at Parkland that eventually
Hmm.
God reconfirmed that call to ministry. It was his wife Sherry who she saw how I was when I interacted with her kids, who were it was a they were in the end of elementary school and beginning of up to I think the oldest one was I guess he was an eighth grader. And so she said, why don't you help out with like they had Sunday school classes, the junior high Sunday school class. I was like, you don't want me in there. Like some kid's gonna smart off to me. I'm gonna pop him. You're gonna end up in the papers. You don't want that to happen. And they're like, that's not gonna take place. And so I walked in, and that first Sunday of like where they were just kind of showing me around and started to help. And then pretty soon some of the other leaders and I was 19.
Okay.
Some of the adults that were leading the class, they kind of backed off, and they're like, why don't you teach, James? Why don't you teach this? And so I started to do that, and then a few months later, um, they said, would you start a midweek thing for the youth? And I said, sure. And so I did, and I went to a bookstore and bought some books on youth ministry and started to read them, and so I started a midweek, and that started to grow, and then fast forward another year, they hired a youth pastor. That youth pastor said, I want you to be the high school director. And so I started serving as a high school director while I was still in the Army.
Hmm.
And then got out, and I was supposed to intern under him. I got out of the Army and I stayed up there. I was supposed to intern under him, and then he left. And so then they made me the interim uh, high school director while they looked for another youth pastor. And then a little before that, one of the elders asked if I would start a college group in their bonus room at their house, and they said, we'll cook dinner
Hmm.
on Sunday night, and so there'll be free food, and you just lead it. And I said, okay. So I just started it, and it grew, and so it was kind of in that time frame between going back to church and getting out of the army, that God really showed me that he's wired me up to start things or turn things around. And so every ministry I've been in, it's been about starting something or turning something around. So
Interesting. Well, it's been interesting so far just to hear some like parallels. Obviously, Tony are both guys that have been raised in the Christian church, have gone to
Mhm.
Christian church Bible colleges. So anybody that was like, our vintage and went to CIY ever knows Jason French.
Yep.
Because, like I was a youth pastor bringing my kids to CIY, and, they fly in like good youth pastors to speak. The rest of us don't usually get invited. And Jason French always got invited to
Always.
speak at, CIY. And I mean, I can think of a sermon he gave that was like,
Hmm.
wow, can youth pastors get to preach like that? That's incredible. And
Yeah.
did you remember Jason also, Tony?
Oh yeah. Well, when I went to Ozark, one of the guys that was a student with me, he was from Tulsa and he was in Jason's youth ministry there.
Oh, in Oklahoma. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So yeah, the connection's definitely strong for sure. So just Christian church world, man, is a small world.
oh,
Yeah, it
definitely,
is. We
definitely.
also, my dad's family was also LDS, so I've got that in common too. I was actually thinking about that when you said they rolled up those trailers. That's kind of like the LDS, thing where they always put churches across the street from the schools,
Yeah,
and as an elective, the kids can go over and which people in the Midwest maybe haven't heard of that because Mormonism's not as big in the Midwest, but out here, like
Right.
we have a temple in Twin Falls, and so there's a church across the street from every school in our city, and the kids will go over and do that. So that was a funny. I was like, oh, okay, I know what that is, but I've never
yeah,
heard that the Catholic or the Protestant trailer pulling up, the Catholic or the protesters.
yeah,
Great.
I love that your preacher there at Parkland made eye contact with you and gave you the point because it's like I would imagine the three of us have done that at some point to somebody that we know that doesn't normally come to church
Hmm.
up and just like, oh hey, and
yeah,
then beeline to that person after service, So,
I've made the mistake a couple of times of saying hello to someone who's walking in kind of late, just because I'm friendly and outgoing. I'm like, hey, hey Tom, and then everyone like turns and
yeah.
oh
oh,
sorry, trying to sneak in the back, and it's like you only do that once or twice, and you're like, yeah, and everyone's gonna turn around. So
Uh,
did you end up going to like ministry training school at some point?
I did. Yeah, so
Where'd you go?
um I went to Puget Sound Christian College for a
Oh,
little while.
okay,
before
nice.
they close
Um,
down.
Yeah, so I was there like their last year when they were in Edmonds. And
Hmm.
then they
Okay,
sold the Edmonds campus and they
yeah.
moved to Mount Lake Terrace. And so
Right.
I actually worked for the school over that summer and helped with like the move and some of the renovation stuff in Mount Lake Terrace. And then I saw the writing on the wall and was like, so when I started going to school there, they told me they had emergency accreditation, and then that went away. Um, and
Mm.
so I ended up, so I was still driving down to Parkland, and I was serving as the interim high school pastor during that time. We hired a youth pastor, and I stayed for that first summer to kind of help get him all acclimated and everything else. But at the same time, God opened the door for me to reach out to my sister and my nephew in Southern California, and I was looking at schools to transfer to, and I ended up transferring to Azusa Pacific University,
Oh, sure.
and I finished up at APU. So
Okay.
Gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah, one of my good friends went there. I was wondering if you'd gone to Hope International, because he said Fullerton, and I went, oh,
yeah,
Hope, but yeah,
Yeah.
I went there
yeah.
for grad school, but never physically went there. I just did it online, so I feel like a very strong pull toward Fullerton, California, from a
Oh yeah.
screen.
From a
Yeah,
screen.
yeah, for sure. So tell me, I want to save kind of your present circumstance for the second episode, but
Sure.
when you finished Bible college and stuff, um, I know you went to Gig Harbor at some point, which is a smaller community, and you're in a smaller community now. Is that how you started, or were you starting in bigger settings, or?
So I was So I was living in Orange County when I was going to Azusa, and I
Okay.
was helping at a church plant from East Side that was called University Praise. It started a couple small groups and was doing some outreach stuff in the community. Then when I finished at Azusa, I was hired at a church in the high desert area of California,
Oh,
in Hesperia. So it's a Christian church
okay.
called Victor Valley Christian Church.
Okay.
Oh,
And so it's like it was 70 miles from where I lived, about a little under 100 miles from LA. And it's off the 15 on the way to Las Vegas.
yeah.
So
Okay.
Yeah.
it used to be like it was it was where the last In-N-Out burger was before you get to Vegas.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
That was
okay.
a while
yeah.
ago. Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was more of a small community also. It was a commuter place. Most people worked, they'd say down the hill because you had to go down the Cajon Pass, down into San Bernardino or Riverside or Los
Hmm.
Angeles or Orange County for work. Um, and so yeah, there was a little bit of it was smaller than where I had grown up.
Mm.
Um, and then after I was at Victor Valley, I ended up being called back up to Parkland Christian Church. They changed their name to Rainier View Christian Church at that
Okay.
point and
Oh,
had gone to multi-site.
okay.
So, so they brought me up to be the youth and young adult pastor to oversee the student ministry on both campuses and the college ministry. And
Mm.
so I was there doing that for about four years. And then the pastor that was there after I had gone to church planner assessment, a couple months later, he resigned. And so the elders at Rainier View asked if I would stay and help the Parkland campus which was the first campus to get healthy.
Okay.
And so I prayed about it and Christy prayed about it and I felt God just saying be present where you are, and Christy felt God saying you don't leave family like this. And so
Mm.
so we stayed for a little while. They ended up hiring the Graham campus pastor. They made him the senior pastor,
Mm.
and then he asked if I would delay church planting um, until Parkland was like thriving.
Mm.
And so I prayed about it and I said, well, let's talk about what that looks like. What are the benchmarks? And so we put some benchmarks down that the people that were reaching, they were from that neighborhood,
Mm.
instead of just driving into it, because Parkland uh, had become a church that people just drove to. They moved out of the area. A lot of people moved out of the area. It had
Oh,
kind of
interesting.
yeah. And
Mm.
so we sent a number of benchmarks there, talked about it, and then made an agreement that like when those were reached, then it would be time for me to go, and that
Mm.
and in doing so, I said, and my hope is that Rainier View will be a sending church that's a major funding partner. And
Yeah.
so I still had the goal and felt the call to plant.
Yeah.
Um, and so kind of secured that and got it in writing because
And got it in writing, my
I
yeah,
brother.
on the dotted line.
it's
Yes.
it's one of those things where, um, you hope you never need that to go back on, but people remember things differently.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yep.
so I found that getting things put down on paper is a good way to just make sure everybody stays friends and everybody holds
Mhm.
their word and
Yes,
so
indeed.
yeah.
So very good.
So let's why don't we put a bookmark there and we'll
Yeah.
come back. And I know that Gig Harbor, I think that Gig Harbor and Greenville, Michigan are both smaller communities. So maybe we'll get into that a little bit. But let's go ahead and wrap up. I want to do something annoying just real quick and give a shout
Okay.
out to our only super fan. We have one. Kristen Ramsey. I met her at a conference at Tony's church last weekend, and she said, I listen to every episode. And I'm like, you do? You're the only one besides my mom who listens. So yeah. So shout out, Kristen. Thanks for listening. And I want to be sure and ask our sponsors, our listeners, to check out our sponsor at 9centprinting.com. I bet you know who that is, James.
I do.
If you like what we're doing, please like or subscribe wherever you watch or listen. If you're interested in Small Town Network, you can find us online at smalltownnetwork.com. And if you believe in the importance of planting disciple-making churches in smaller communities, we'd love you to consider partnering with us in prayer and financial support. You've been listening to the Small Town Pastor Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by 9centprinting.com. With over 100 5-star reviews, 9centprinting.com is ready to meet all your printing needs. Are you a church plant or a small church with no copy machine? No problem. 9cent Printing has you covered. If you need bulletins, flyers, books, cards, offering envelopes, posters, they do it all. I know the Christian owners of this business personally, and I'm not just a fan, I'm also a customer. Fast, nationwide shipping, affordable, professional, wow printing at wow prices. Check them out at 9centprinting.com.